As you probably know, I have some retro grouchish tendencies, and I tend to be skeptical of every startup product that comes my way. They usually make outrageous claims of revolutionizing the way you ride your bike, but they end up solving problems that nobody has. Another one of those startup bike companies contacted me to review their bike light, but on paper, this one didn't sound completely dumb. So I agreed to review the Binoreal Radius F1, albeit with a healthy dose of skepticism walking in. This is supposedly the world's first smart bike light. What in the world is a smart bike light? Does the world need a smart bike light? And most importantly, is a smart bike light a smart investment? Let's find out. Just to be clear, I'm not being paid for this review and I will never accept payment for a review. I'm able to do this because of the help that the super subscribers give. With a Fixie famous shout out to Jazeel and Mikey Sincox. Thanks to the super subscribers that support through Patreon that allow these reviews to be my 100% honest opinion. This is the Binoreal Radius F1, the world's first smart bike light. But what in the world makes a smart bike light? Bike lights are pretty straightforward things. You push a button to turn it on, you push the same button to turn it off, and also you push that button to cycle through different light modes. Keep it full of power, throw it on your bike, and don't get hit by a car or ride blindly through a bed of glass. Everybody wins. So how can they make a light smarter and hopefully better? Well, what separates the Radius F1 from your run-of-the-mill bike light is its automatic feature. In automatic mode, the light will adjust according to how you're riding. For instance, if you're waiting at a stop, the light will automatically switch to a blink mode to make you more visible in traffic. Once you take off from that stop, the light will then switch to a beam mode so that you can see the road ahead of you, and the brightness will adjust according to your speed. The faster you ride, the brighter the light is, and when you slow down, the light will dim. While turning a corner, the light will pulse, as in the light will keep a steady beam while flashing a brighter light so you can be more visible to traffic while still being able to see the road. And in the event that you forget to turn off your light, it'll automatically shut off after 2 minutes to conserve battery. And if you come back to your bike and start riding within an hour of the light shutting off, the light will automatically turn on and you don't need to press any buttons. The light that I have here is the slightly fancier model, and it's the 650 lumen version. And in automatic mode, you'll get up to those 650 lumens at around 15 miles per hour. The base version is a 450 lumen model. Some other nifty features include the IPX7 water resistance rating and a drop resistance at around 1 meter or about waist height. It also includes this cleverly designed twist and lock mount that places your light in front of your stem as to not take up valuable handlebar real estate. Albeit the mount is made out of plastic and it's not the most confidence-inspiring as far as durability goes. The light also has a battery indicator when you turn the light on. 3 blue lights means that it's full of power, 1 blue light means that you need to charge it, pretty self-explanatory. And it comes with this Bluetooth remote control that, if it did work, would supposedly make switching between modes in manual mode safer, because you can mount this where your hands are on the bar and then you don't have to take off your hand to push the button, but it's not difficult. The base 450 lumen model starts at $80? Really? $80? The base 450 lumen model starts at $80, while the slightly fancier 650 lumen model starts at $100. At the time of this video, both of the lights are on sale for $56 and $70 respectively. These are the features that make the Radius F1 a smart bike light. But of course, when you add features, you also add complexity, and I'm as lazy as anyone when it comes to my stuff. When I buy something, I just want it to do its job and to make my life easier. But because there's a manual mode and an automatic mode on the lights, I did spend a good 10 minutes figuring out which types of button presses do what functions. The fiddling around was slightly annoying to learn with this light, because with traditional lights, all you have to do is push a button. You don't have to think about how to operate them. But with the Radius F1, you have to remember, okay, it's a button press to turn on the light, but it's a button hold to turn off the light. And when you turn on the light and after the battery indicator flashes and you have a green light, that means the light is in automatic mode, as you can see here. But if you want to go to manual mode, that's 2 quick button presses. But since switching between manual and automatic mode are both button presses, if you want to quickly cycle through the manual mode, you have to press the button, or else if you press it too fast, you'll accidentally switch back into automatic mode. There's a learning curve with this light, but there shouldn't be. It's a bike light. It doesn't need to be so complex. When I'm using this thing, it feels more like diffusing a bomb than just turning on a light. And then there's the Bluetooth remote control that you can also use to cycle all of these features. Again, if this thing even worked. The rationale for the remote control is that it's safer because you don't have to take your hand off the handlebar in order to switch light settings. Sure, theoretically, keeping your hands on the bars at all times will be a little bit safer than occasionally taking a hand off to switch light settings, but this isn't that hard. If taking your hands off the handlebars were dangerous, then drop bars and drinking from a water bottle while riding would be dangerous. In that case, send me to the X Games. I'll humor the reasoning for this remote and say that it is too dangerous to take your hands off the handlebars while you're riding to switch light modes. Well, how often do you even switch light modes? Usually when you're at a stop, when you're getting on your bike, or when you're getting off your bike. In all of these cases, you won't even be pedaling your bike. Well, let's just say that you do find a need for this remote. In that case, every time you park your bike, you need to take this thing off of your bike, because regardless of whether people know what this thing is or not, if they see it on your bike, they'll probably steal it. Even if you did find this remote useful, you'd be hard pressed to put up with the inconvenience of always having to put this thing on your bike and take it off every time you go for a ride and park your bike. To me, it's just one more thing to lose, and it's pretty useless, in my opinion. Who has a problem with doing this? Basically, this remote shouldn't exist, but it does, because I think that Binoreal thought that their self-proclaimed smart bike light wasn't smart enough, so they had to add one more extra feature that other bike lights don't have to make it seem even smarter for press releases. My experience with this light is that it's certainly cool, but after the novelty wears off, it's just another bike light. The light performs all of its features as advertised, but I find it difficult to actually ride in automatic mode. I'm not currently living in a big city, so my riding is pretty steady, which means that the light is at full blast when it's in automatic mode about 95% of the time. You might find it more useful if you ride often in a big city, but even then, you don't need to change light modes all that often. Traditional bike lights do a good enough job at keeping you visible, and there's not much in between. Either other people on the road will see you, or they won't, and traditional bike lights make it so they see you. This bike light isn't necessarily making you more visible and safer. I've used this light for riding around town in Sacramento and for a tour to the Bay Area. My battery life in automatic mode, which they claim is supposed to save battery life, was around 1 hour and 45 minutes, which is shorter than the claimed 2 hours at full blast. Again, when I was riding in automatic mode, it is at full blast for 95% of the time, so your mileage may vary. On the bright side, at no point did I wish that this light was brighter. Quite the opposite, actually. When the light is in flash mode at stops, it's actually really bright, and I felt like I was blinding everyone. When I was at stops, I actually found myself just tapping the light so it would stop blinking and blinding everyone. Just kind of felt like I was being annoying when I was using this light in automatic mode, and when it was flashing, it's just brighter than it needs to be. The brightness of the 650 lumen Radius F1 is bright enough to see the road ahead of you. I was able to confidently descend some hills along the coast with this thing where there was no artificial light and very little moonlight. But perhaps the Radius F1 let me descend a little bit too confidently. Although the light has a battery life indicator, there's no telling how much time is left in your bike light. While descending those pitch black hills, the light died on me and shut off completely without warning. I had to brake hard and pray that I don't crash. Other bike lights have a feature that dim the light before they die to give a warning to the rider, hey, you're about to be lightless, so don't do anything risky. That's just not the case with the Radius F1. Once the battery dies, it just immediately shuts off, which kinda defeats the purpose of the light. These things are supposed to keep you safe. But instead, this light lulled me into a false sense of security, which, regardless of price, is a deal breaker. Another deal breaker with this light for me is the charger. It uses this magnetic charger, which is easier to plug in than a standard micro USB cable, but therein lies the problem. This cable isn't standard. That means you have to carry an extra cable to work to make sure that you can get home, and that means you have to worry about another cable to lose while you're on tour or when you're just going out and about. And when, not if, this charging cable gets lost or when it breaks, it's proprietary, so you have to contact Binoreal to get another one. This charger is just a bigger headache than it's worth. Traditional bike lights either take micro USB or they take batteries, which both of those you can find just about anywhere. Micro USB chargers are just so ubiquitous. It just doesn't matter if you lose your traditional bike light's cable. My phone charges through micro USB, my battery bank charges through micro USB, my camera charges through micro USB, and all of my other lights, including the tail light that I will be running along with the Binoreal Radius F1, also charge with micro USB, and this is just the stuff that's within an arm's reach. I probably have more stuff. It makes very little sense to me to have an entirely new charger for something that's as small as a bike light. I was biking to a friend's house across town around 8 o'clock at night. Midway through my ride, the light died. Again, there's not really much warning that you need to charge this thing other than the one battery life indicator, but who knows how long that is. Because I was all the way across town, and because I did not have this specific charger with me, I ended up having to spend the night at my friend's house just because I didn't have a headlight and didn't want to bike home 10 miles in the dark. Every time the light is dead, it's useless. And the Radius F1 will be useless more times than a traditional headlight. And all because of this proprietary magnetic charger, but at least it's cool, right? Firstly, I don't find the Radius F1's automatic feature to be all that practical. A light's job is to keep you safe while you ride your bike, and traditional bike lights that everyone already has already do that. Second, the proprietary charger makes this thing a paperweight more often than it should be. And thirdly, because there is no warning function that the light is about to die, it makes relying on this light potentially dangerous, as I found out firsthand while I was descending a pitch black hill. The Radius F1 makes incremental improvements over traditional bike lights, and even at that it's arguable whether these are actually improvements. Binoreal seems to have missed the forest for the trees. They added an automatic mode, they added a nifty magnetic charger, they added a Bluetooth remote, but they missed the big picture of answering the questions: what problem does this product solve that people have, and how does this make people's lives easier? To me, this is a more expensive light that does its job worse. I personally will be making a smart decision and be sticking with my dumb bike light. Thanks again to the super subscribers over on Patreon that make me able to give my 100% honest opinion when I give reviews. Currently, we're almost halfway to the fundraising goal of $150 per month, and once we hit that goal, I'll be able to make 2 videos per week instead of 1. And if you've already ridden your bike today, why don't you reward yourself by watching another fixed gear video? And if you haven't ridden your bike yet, stop watching me right now. Life is short, but don't make it shorter, so ride your bike every day to stay reasonably dangerous.